Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Other Epic Story Readings. This is the show that complements my vlog, where I talk about writing and editing tips and tricks and apply it to my own work, which is this dystopian fantasy manuscript that I'm working on. If you haven't checked it out, I'll attach the link up here. It talks more about the project. If you are already invested in the story, we'll get right to it. Today we're doing Chapter 2. Aaron Delaine was a criminal. For 20 dark moons, he had lived a wearisome life as a fugitive, traveling through the mountains along the boundaries of Jin, the vast desert that it bordered, and beyond. He was aware that someone somewhere was still searching for him. His head must still be worth a large bounty. Murder was not a small crime in any place, and especially in his hometown of North Bourbon, approximately 600 wheels from where he was now. It was a frightening prospect, wandering the fallen roads for so long. In retrospect, the year had passed by quickly. It seemed like only moments ago that he was holding the gun to his wife's lover and shot him with the weapon he stole from the town sheriff. He sometimes fell asleep, laughing at how easy it all was. Mistakes are easy, and apologies are hard. He had swiped the pistol, shot the man, and fled town within the hour. Instantly, his life was spun in all directions, and without time to plot out his next order, he was gone. The news about the runaway murderer spread as far as news could go, which was never more than 150 wheels, tended to be the distance most travelers retreat. Delaine didn't need to outrun the manhunt, but simply the momentum of his crime. People would forget someday, Delaine told himself as he warmed his hands by a small fire he built. People will forgive, and he shall repent for his awful deed. Until then, Aaron Delaine will remain a criminal, wanted, dead or alive. Still, Delaine does not go a day without regret. The remorse was worse than the jealousy that pulled the trigger. Sometimes suicidal thoughts would creep into his head. Return home, it whispered in his brain. Beg for mercy, ask for forgiveness, and persuade the gentlefolks of North Bourbon that you, Aaron Delaine, model citizen, a studious worker for so many years, had simply made an awful mistake. Idiot, his mouth retorted. They would burn you at the stakes if you ever return. For stealing a weapon from a town authority? Hell, that is enough to lose your arms. For murdering a man? That would be a town square decapitation. For fleeing and causing a year's worth of distress? That might lead to the worst punishment of all. They make an example of you. Idiots. If you ever return, or come close to a land where they recognize you, hell, you are going to wish you were back here eating bush berries and squirrel about bonfire. For the first 3 autumn moons, Delaine had been in constant movement, fearing comfort in any spot would leave him marked and vulnerable. His nomadic pursuit for a safe haven led him across the gorge of Lendorva, geographically separating the land of his birth from the land of his eventual death. Once he crossed the canyon, he felt at ease. He would admit to feeling content and even happy the few weeks after crossing the gorge. It surprised him of what a small accomplishment could do. Alas, those good feelings were fleeting, and at the end of a long day through the desert and ruins, he realized that there was nothing to celebrate. Where was he walking towards? The inevitable end to a bad beginning, or just an endless road, someplace in between life and death? Crossing landmarks and terrains meant nothing. Nothing changes except the scenery. The juniper bushes that he passed were mocking him, teasing him, laughing at him as he dragged his body past, hoping to discover an oasis around the corner. The continent's size amazed Delaine. If his crime offered any consolation, it was the opportunity to experience the ever-changing horizon. Regular folks won't get to see all that he saw. Then again, regular folks were not runaways. Still, was bathing in the lake of Bordenon worth losing his home? Was watching the sunrise on the Miranda Plateau worth the loneliness? Was hiking through the Jin Mountains worth all the tears and sweat? There was no fair way to compare the reward to the loss. To do so would be to compare the riches of gold to the grain of rice upon the floor. What was once an insignificant morsel of food was now a waste, not worthy to be consumed, more harmful than nutritious. That was how Delaine felt about the beautiful world around him. He was no longer worthy to enjoy it. As the first approach of summer, Delaine found a small cave on the outer rim of Jin. Like the continent's massive, crooked smile, the mountains jutted upwards like 100 fists to God. Eventually, the hands of the earth extended. Fingers reached for the sky. This phenomenon caused the land to the west of Jin to grow sun-beaten and dry, while Jin fostered a town. The land around it was harsh with drought. Some say the curse was not upon the desert, but on Jin itself, for the citizens that called it home would be forever trapped. Delaine cared little for Jin. The sight of a town was not as alluring as it might have seemed. He had grown accustomed to his new lifestyle. There was a comfort in the silent whispers of his thoughts. The only arguments were with himself, but they were always moderated, and he always won. He was far from peace, but the solitude was therapeutic. Now that he sat at the brim of a new town, he wondered if attempting a new life would reverse his healing process. He wondered if the news of his murder had traveled the distance. He wondered whether the town would accept him, put him to work, feed and clothe him with no questions asked. Of course, there was still one tool he had. The crucial item that caused him so much grief, yet he could not abandon. The pistol he stole from the North Bourbon sheriff. That poor, clueless boy, Delaine recalled. That fool had probably never even aimed it at a human being. Why would he? There were never any crimes in North Bourbon until his murder, unless he considered adultery a crime, which he damn well did. One punishable by death.